Okay, let's get. So this is a negotiations meeting between the Freeport Withdrawal Working Group. We just got the recording going. It's April 2nd. It's about 6:40, 6:38. And present we have Rich DeGram, Kate Werner, Pete Murray, Dennis King, Kate Brown, Candy pardon me, and Michelle Richardson. And here comes Shannon. So we have a short agenda tonight, and thought we'd just dive right in with updates from both sides, and then a little bit about enrollment commitments, and then maybe we'll wrap up with next steps and planning for what's going to happen in the near future. So that's what we got.
Sounds good.
So I'm on deck first, I guess, with the update from the Withdrawal Committee. So we've been working and focused around a couple of things primarily. The first being, this is annoying me because it's talking at me a little bit. The first being that we've been looking at the commitments and the grandfathering options, and we have some stuff to talk about on that we're looking forward to discussing with you in a little bit. The other is we've been gathering the data that we've gotten from Shannon and administration, and that's been going well. We're going through that and trying to identify the parts that are relevant for immediate use and relevant for longer-term use, and working our way through that stuff, and going with questions. We're beginning to put together discussion points and questions that we want to bring to the DOE. So some of which are relevant, I think, for both parties, but also asking them to and do some financial work for us as well. And we haven't contacted them yet, but we're probably looking to do that in the next week or so. Our work has really been around planning this forum. So we've got a committee stood up. It's chaired by Eric Horn, and Kate is working with us, working with the committee from the board, and we're all very active. Richie's active, and I'm involved, and Dennis is in and out of emails as well. So we're all engaged in the process, and there are a bunch of folks from the community helping do some of the legwork. And we're trying to put together a city town-wide forum to discuss kind of what the town of Freeport wants in the context of a withdrawal of a standalone district, what it would want from its high school, and that's really what the program is there, and that's really meant to help us as we're trying to work with you to figure out what the agreement is, get some context from the community. So that's what we're doing. We're going to have a professional facilitator. We're going to do a 3-hour evening thing on the 17th. I know it sounds like fun, Nelson. I'm sure you'll be there. I hope you'll be there.
Questioning it now.
I'm waiting for food as being a major draw point, but so far there's a raging debate about that. But we do to work to gather input from some of the education leaders that have been in the community for a while, and really put together a thoughtful discussion and roundtables, and really work on understanding community input at that forum. So that's been a big part of our work, along with the enrollment stuff that we can say. But I think that the point for tonight is that we're looking to that forum as a way for us to gather context so that we can get more concrete on stuff. Mm-hmm. And so what we're going to try and do is give you as much as we feel like we can say that we commit to, that we think is a real concrete offer, not overpromise and then say, oh well, the town told us something. We're going to try and take it stepwise, but be as transparent and open about what's going on as we can be. So that's I think that's the majority of what happened from our side.
Our update as of today is last week was filled with lots of meetings with other districts to try and find out capacity questions for the areas around who might have some who might have some interest in capacity to help support us from a central office perspective, if that is the way we choose to go. So last week we met with Marikina here in Freeport. We met with the Lisbon School District, and we also met. Those were all initial discussions with them, similar to the questions that we went over with you guys last week, and similar to Freeport and SAD 51 prior to that.
Brunswick?
What's that?
Did you say Brunswick?
What did I say?
Did you mean Brunswick? You said Freeport.
Oh, yeah, sorry. You guys, Brunswick was before that, yes. I was jumping ahead in my head to the next meeting, which was Monday, where we met with Brunswick for a second time to go over some initial figures on what they thought they could take for kids and provide in the area of support on the central office side, as well as middle school kids. So that has been the bulk of our meetings. We have SAD 51 is for a week from Monday. Is that right, Shannon? Okay. So their second meeting with us will be about a week and a half time. So we'll hopefully be able to nail down some firmer numbers with them once we sit down again. And is it echoing?
Yeah, it does echo. I'm sorry about that. But it needs to be on or it won't record, so I apologize for the echo. If you hear yourself over your shoulder.
It's poor Dennis who has to listen to me twice. I feel bad for him.
He's going to make get it right? He's going to get it all done.
So the other thing that I thought we would talk about was sort of the plan, and obviously you guys saw the email that I sent out, but for the public, what our timing was from the plan provided to us. We met with our attorney the day after, I guess, our last meeting, and Kelly pulled together some additional information he had requested last week, and we expect to get back his version the end of this week, and we're meeting with him next week on our Monday night meeting, and we'll have it. The plan is to have it back to you guys before your meeting on Thursday, so you guys will have it to review, and then we'll get together on the 16th. You guys are in the throes of planning for the 17th.
Right.
It'll be a busy week for you guys, and go from there. So we were very interested to hear when you had said you guys had some update on the enrollment piece. That's certainly a big question mark from the communities, specifically around the grandfathering and that sort of thing, just the that creates. So if we can get some clarity around that, or that would be wonderful. And let's see, that's about where we are.
Okay.
So.
All right. So let's dive into enrollment commitment and grandfathering and so forth. As I said last time, or as we said last time, the has been to want to provide grandfathering for everybody that was in the building from that first year after the withdrawal might happen, and that we had looked at numbers and that there were some conflicting numbers, and we were trying to pin them down and get them straight. So as we did, we kind of said, all right, there are all these projections and crystal balls and prognostications out there. What we're going to do is look at the kids that we see in the district today, right? Because we can project out through, we see kids in the district from kindergarten all the way up. So we took that number of kids and we did a model that basically rolled those populations forward each year. And we made an assumption to try to estimate the maximum enrollment that would happen if we gathered everybody after that first year after withdrawal into the high school and the middle school. What would the maximum population enrollment be at the high school if we assumed everybody came and we assumed nobody knew, which are conservative assumptions because we assume we're right now competing with charter schools coming online, this withdrawal goes through, there will presumably be other options for RSU5 kids. So we believe that represents a cap on what we would
For sure.
doing this.
Yeah.
And so, given that, we're totally comfortable. In fact, we're excited to be able to offer full grandfathering from 6th grade through high school for the kids that are in the middle school, and for high school for the kids that are in high school. In that year after withdrawal, right? So in the first year after withdrawal, kids get to choose to come wherever they want as if RSU was still together. And then whatever kids choose to come to Freeport in that situation will grandfather them throughout. And we have to talk about the tuition. We talked about the state tuition and so forth, and that's our current position on that too. And transportation is something else. But as far as capacity, we're excited to that we won't have a capacity issue in that time frame.
That makes me very pleased.
Okay. All right.
I think that's gonna go a long way to help easing some anxiety for the parents, particularly the Pownell kids with the middle schoolers and transitioning from Pownell to Freeport to wherever potentially. It
doesn't make any sense. We want those kids to have continuity. We want them to have that, the work that's been done on the curriculum. We want them to be able to take advantage of all of that throughout their time. So that
good.
We're, I understand stress, and I'm sorry that it caused stress for us to work through that, but we wanted to make sure we understood the numbers before we committed to it, and so we're comfortable with it now. We sat down with Shannon, and she even said my numbers weren't totally crazy. So
weren't totally crazy. Well, that's a good. You're not totally crazy.
I didn't want to put words in her mouth. Too many words in her mouth. No, I just wanted to make sure it was clear that I'm working together. We're all working together to try to figure it out.
Yeah. No, and I think you're right. I mean, while it does cause a little bit of anxiety, I think be thoughtful when we're putting these decisions in place, then end up backpedaling, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with that. I'm glad that that was the conclusion that you guys were able to come to based on your numbers, because I think you're right. I think those are probably very conservative numbers. Historically, how many kids fall off from 8th grade to high school for any number of reasons, right? Just private schools in general, and now charter schools. And then if there are other options for our 5 kids, then that'll be a big decision point for everybody.
Right. So. We're excited about that, and we are going to work to put that into the document, and we'll look to get that to you as soon as we can. Ideally, I haven't been in touch with our attorney. We've been trading calls, so I don't want to speak, but what I'd like to see happen is if we could put that into writing for you before close of business Friday again, and get that to you so we could put it into this cycle of iteration. That would be really great for us. Mm-hmm. So we'll work towards that, but I want to make it clear that I can't speak for him or his availability in that time frame without having done so.
No problem. Okay. Sorry. Better write it down.
Yeah. Did you put no promise on there?
No promise.
The other piece we want to talk about is that we want to make it clear also to everybody who's maybe listening in the room and to you folks that this is the starting point, right? We anticipate being able to and wanting to talk about additional capacity, but we want to do that in the context of having had some with the community.
That's the forum.
So that's what we're trying to get going, and I think there was one other point that we had talked about tabling, putting on the table tonight, but I'd like to have a caucus before we if we do that tonight. So if that's okay with you guys,
sure.
That would be. It's been since last Thursday that we've talked.
No problem. You want to do that now?
So that's all right.
Sure.
All right.
How much? Not that I want to rush you, but
15 minutes at the most.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. Great. I'm going to put this on mute, and I'm sorry, folks listening. You'll have. Again, thanks, everybody. Sorry, guys, online for the delay. To pick up where we left off, we had talked about the grandfathering, and what we wanted to make sure we're all on the same page about is talking about commitments or offerings beyond the grandfathering. And part of what that's going to involve is this communication and this dialogue with the community that we're planning in the forum. So we're not going to get real specific, but there are some things that we think we can put on the table without, in the context of what we know today. So the first thing, and we said this, I think, last time around, that in the middle school, we feel like we have that capacity to offer the RSU5 middle school students a longer-term arrangement, if that's desirable. And we think that we think that there'll be a minimum capacity at the high school for offering, say 60 students throughout high school with between 60 and say 100 or 120, or maybe even 50 kids beyond the grandfathering time period. But that's where we need to talk, right, with our community, right, is to talk about what's that vision for the high school, what kind of enrollment supports that program, and what kind of flexibility do we need to have to adapt for whatever those plans might be. So that's what we want to put on the table.
Okay. And I guess what I would say is, as you guys get more clarity around the size of the school, which I think is going to be the driving factor on how many slots are available to the RSU, we can nail down those numbers. I think the ability to still send kids to Freeport High is a great option for the RSU5 kids. There's a diverse universe of kids in Durham and Pownell, and their needs are different, and opportunities we can provide to them, whether it be Brunswick or Greeley or Yarmouth or Freeport, I think the better. It also helps, hopefully down the road, limit some of our concerns about, we have 200 slots at 100 kids. How do we figure out who goes where?
Mm-hmm.
The more of a pool we have, the more, hopefully natural selection will take care of a lot of that. And I think there are families that would, even if Freeport withdrew from the RSU, would still choose the school they'd like to go to. So, I hope we can come to an agreement on some group of slots that we could include in that pool for our kids, because I think it's a opportunity. So,
right. It seems to me that the variables we will be working with over the next weeks will be things about what's that overall capacity figure that we see from today, how many seats we commit to making sure are available, right, to the RSU, how many seats you commit to sending to the RSU, if there's some back and forth on that. Those are two knobs. And then there's the flexibility of allowing future school boards to move that number up or down or whatever, if it's not a commitment that we've agreed to in the context of this agreement. So I think there's kind of those three buckets at least, and probably of how this agreement might work out. And I'm sure you're talking about those kinds of discussions with other districts with respect to committing a minimum number, and they commit to a certain maximum and so forth.
Frankly, what we're hearing more of is the maximum number, other than Brunswick. All of them have said they have the facilities in place, and so adding incremental kids,
right.
They're not looking for minimums.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. That's great for you guys. That's nice.
But I think, honestly, feel based on the schools that we're talking to, the minimums wouldn't be an issue anyway. They're all great schools. So minimums would be an interesting twist on you know, we get back to that pool of slots, and if we have to guarantee a certain number,
Right.
and
I
if
know.
kids opt out.
It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
What do you do? Yeah. And so, well, let's just.
Yep.
Yep.
Nope. Fair enough. Have to give it some thought and work on that.
Yep.
one.
Yep. Keep cogitating about it. It'll be interesting to see, I think, if some of these other mature a little bit, and we
Right.
can, and you guys have a little more clarity as well about, you know, we'll have more clarity and we'll be able to come in on what we hope will be a win-win-win, you know, kind of option, or at least the best we can in the context of what we got.
So, so the middle school capacity for Pownell, you don't see that,
That's right.
and presumably those kids would have the ability to move into those high school slots for the same reasons bothering.
Mm-hmm.
So they would be part of that. Yeah.
That would be illogical. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's the other interesting twist in this whole process is the middle school piece.
Exactly. I mean, are you getting feedback from other districts that they have middle school capacity, or is that a tougher nut to crack than the school capacity, or?
It was interesting. It seemed like all of our first meetings, everyone was very hesitant about the middle school, but and also about the central office capacity. As they've gone back and, you know, talked to their board and talked to their administrators, it seems like several of them have ability at the middle school level. I guess they all haven't gotten back to us. There's some that are still sort of working through those numbers, but I think we've definitely at least gotten one or two that have said they have capacity at the middle school level. So, so those are all interesting, you know, Pownell Middle School moves forward. So.
Yep. Well, good. Well, we're looking forward to talking about all that stuff.
Okay.
Do we need to talk about what's happening next? I mean, I guess you talked a little bit in your update about your upcoming plans, and we'll look in a draft back midweek next week, so that we'll have a chance to review before our meeting on Thursday. If you could do it by close of business Wednesday, that would be great. But whenever you can, it's great. That would give us a day to review it before we meet on Thursday night.
Yep.
And as I said, we'll try to get a draft with grandfathering language in and page numbers on it for you by close business Friday. So that's what we'll shoot for. And again, I got to talk with Dan about that.
First.
Yep.
Good. Anything else you want to?
Anything else?
Look at this, nice quick one for people.
Short.
Get you home when
Thanks,
it's still
guys,
light
for
out.
coming out.
All right.
Okay.
We good?
Thanks. All right. I think we're adjourned.
Have a good evening.
Bye now. Let me just turn this off here.